Hey YouTube, this is John with another video. It's going to be not a review of anything, but more or less a discussion on home defense. Okay. And in self-protection, when you're out by yourself or with family and friends as well, it kind of fits all of those scenarios. Um, One thing, I think when you think about home invasions, if it doesn't happen in your area, not on your doorstep, so to speak. If it's states away and hours away, you may not give it really much of a second thought. If you run across it on the news, you might think, well, that's unfortunate, and not really give it much thought. Um, I want to make people think about the practicality of self-defense, home defense, the need for it, and this even goes for people that don't like guns, that are anti-gun, or maybe uh, even saw someone else get murdered with a gun. I think you need to get out of the frame mind of demonizing guns and firearms in general. They're not bad. A firearm is not a bad thing. It's exactly that. It's a thing. It's an object. It's an inanimate object. It can't do anything on its own. Someone has to pull the trigger, manipulate the weapon, etc. So with that in mind, I would like to talk about getting training with a firearm. The past, I guess, 2 years or so specifically, have seen a rise in gun ownership, uh, 300-400% from what it used to be. You have more women getting involved in purchasing firearms and carrying for self-defense, especially women, I think, more so because they see a need in it. Society, to me, seems to be getting worse, not getting better. So you've got the economy that's bad. You got more people that do B&Es, breaking and entering, carjackings, grand theft autos, all that kind of stuff. As a way to put food in their mouth. Um, it's unfortunate people turn to crime to do that. If there were enough jobs in this country, that we wouldn't really have that dilemma. So you've got crime rates going up, drug addictions, things like that going up as well. Um, so you don't really know when and where a threat's going to come from because of crime and so forth and drug use and things like that. You may live in a predominantly safe neighborhood, well, what you think is safe. You say, well, nothing like a home invasion or burglaries or anything that happened in this neighborhood. I've lived here for 30, 40 years, blah blah blah. Crime can happen anywhere, anytime. Don't let anybody tell you differently because you just don't know when something like that's going to happen. It could be at home with your family, sitting there watching TV, eating dinner, taking a shower, etc. And you just don't know. Someone could come through the front door, come through a window. You really don't know these days. And don't always assume it's going to be just one person uh, trying to break in or harm you or whatever the case might be. There are multiple things on the news about 3 or 4 or 5 men, sometimes even 6 people storming a house at one time. I think it's a good idea to get a video surveillance system. It doesn't have to be anything that's thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars. Get some outdoor cameras where you can see around the windows, running along the exterior wall where you can see along the house where the windows are. That way you can see if anybody's sneaking up beside the house. And of course, at the front door, all your entrances, every door outside needs to have a camera, needs to be covered. Um, like I said, the driveway, etc., things like that, and have a room set up for that that records, all the time. And you might notice suspicious behavior, or people kind of coming by and looking when you're not even there. Maybe somebody keeps coming up to the house and looking in the windows, or milling around your property when you're not even home. You might not even be aware of that. Suppose they're casing your house for an invasion. Or your business for that fact. It could be a business that you own. This has many implications. So you need to be aware of that. You need to have some kind of video surveillance going on. And it needs to be good quality because you need to be able to identify and see who's on camera. The audio needs to be good. If you have audio mics and stuff with it, that's also good too. Sometimes burglars aren't that smart. They'll be talking each other's names and so forth like that, or nicknames even. You can give police clues later on. Now, if you're inside your house at night and you're with your family and so forth, or if you're by yourself, one of the main things I haven't really heard people talk about as much is don't store your firearms in one particular room in the house all the time. Okay, don't let it be your primary storage where you have all your weapons all the time. You need to have various firearms, whether it be a shotgun, pistols, etc. They're a little bit more easy to conceal. And then sometimes there's even furniture that you can conceal things in false walls or false paintings or whatever. There's all kind of different little things coming out on the market now that can use to store firearms right in plain sight. Get some things like that too. But I think in every room in your house, you need to at least have a firearm in that room and spare magazines in that room. Don't just have a gun and have one magazine in it and think that's going to be enough because you don't really know where the threat's going to come from. Like I said, if you get 4 or 5 guys breaking into your house, excuse me, at one time, they could scatter all over the place. They could be in every room in your house, depending on how big your house is. Or if you have a 1 or 2 story house, you still need to have firearms on both the upper and lower story, and even in the basement even. But just make sure they're safe, from kids getting a hold of them prematurely. If you have children, teach those children about firearms when they get old enough and wise enough that you can teach them how to properly handle and safely handle a firearm and to use it if they need to. You don't want an 8-year-old trying to shoot a .357 Magnum or a shotgun. That's just not very practical. Teach them on a pistol, 38, a 9mm or something like that, or a .380, something. Okay. Your kids just might save your bacon in a home invasion. You never know, So have firearms, and like I said, every room in the house, if you can, concealed, but easily where you know and your wife knows if you're married, and maybe even your children if they're responsible enough to know, better than to pull them out and play with them or whatever, okay? Because you don't really know when a threat's going to come, so you have to be prepared all the time. So have them loaded, one in the chamber, ready to go. Same with a shotgun. Load the shotgun, rack the slide, well, I don't know what you call it, but the action on the shotgun, the pump, rack that, have that ready to go. And some people say, no, you shouldn't do that. It could accidentally this, accidentally that. You could walk out of your front door and get run over by a car. I mean, any ifs that could happen. I mean, anything can happen. But you just have to be smart about it. Every second will count in a home invasion or self-defense situation. That's why if you're out on your own, you should carry one in the chamber, okay? Fully loaded, one in the chamber, have 2 extra magazines at least with you, okay? You could have a magazine issue, okay? The follower could break, who knows, a spring could break, I don't know, who knows what could happen, okay? But you need to also get a handgun training class under your belt. You need to get several, okay? If you've taken one self-defense class in firearms, introduction to firearms, tactical firearms, whatever it might be, you need to at least do that every few months. Okay, even if it's just the very basics, you need to practice the basics at the range. You need, or a friend's house out in the woods, or wherever you need to do it. You need to practice inserting the magazine into the firearm, racking the slide. Okay, presenting the firearm, pointing and shoot, squeezing the trigger, not pulling it really hard or violently or anything like that. That's going to affect your accuracy too. And under a stressful situation, you're not going to be gung-ho Rambo, 100% accurate like you might think. This is even the people that have taken those kind of classes and stuff like that too. Don't get overconfident in your abilities. Don't quit practicing. Think, well, I've already taken that class. I know how to do it. Yes, you might have had to, get clear malfunctions and jams in your firearm and all that kind of stuff. But you need to practice it all the time. Muscle memory, things like that. Get it down pat to where it's second nature. because it's hard enough to do that sometimes just in training purposes, let alone if a home invasion or somebody's trying to kill you or what, who knows what. But you need to be able to do it quickly, because if you have a malfunction, okay, so someone breaks and kicks in your front door and you're sitting there on the couch and you have a firearm on you, which I also recommend. If being at home, you need to carry a firearm on you. I think in a holster, you need to have an open carry so you're not having to worry about having to move clothing out of the way, okay, to get to it. And because you have no idea when something like that's going to happen. And you may not have time to go run and get a gun. They may be armed themselves, or they may not be. It may be more of them than you. They could come in with bats and knives and who knows what. Okay? Just because you have a gun doesn't mean you're going to win. Okay? If they all rush you, you have got to get as many accurate shots off in as little time as possibly as you can. Okay? Because at best, you might narrow the playing field a bit, take out one or two or three maybe, depending on who knows. And you might have to deal with one. It's a lot easier to deal with one than it is three or four. Okay? So, and also, I haven't really heard a lot about this either, but you need to have a knife as well, and you need to have a backup firearm. Okay, on your ankle, or I don't care where it is, another in your back or appendix carry or whatever. You need to have more than one firearm on you at a time if you can, because that may malfunction. If you only have one firearm, you need to at least have a knife on you as well, some pepper spray or something, a taser, whatever, stun gun, whatever, you know. You need to have as many tools at your disposal to defend yourself and your family as you possibly can, and legally can. Make sure everything that you get for self-defense is legal in your state where you live, and your town ordinances and all that kind of stuff. Make sure it meshes well. Because if you have to shoot somebody, that's a whole another can of worms and legal issues and so forth, and possibly lawsuits, etc. too. So make sure everything that you have is legal and up to par, and you know you're do it right as much as you can in your neck of the woods, and you should be okay. Like I said, go through some classes, keep going through the training, have firearms in multiple rooms, keep everything locked and loaded. It might sound a bit like paranoia, but it's not. It's being prepared. Being prepared is not paranoia. There's a difference. Okay? Being paranoid to me is being afraid, okay, when there's absolutely no reason to be afraid, or worry when there's absolutely no reason to worry. It's like you walk outside and the sky is blue and you're scared it's going to rain all of a sudden. Well, that's not very, see, that doesn't make sense. That would be true paranoia. So always be prepared, get the training that you need, and this also means for your wife. Get her involved in firearms if you, or a girlfriend or a fiance if you're living with them. Make sure you either teach them yourself if you know the basics and you know are not screwing around, or go to a class with them, take a class together. Okay, that would be even better. Take a class together, a defensive pistol or whatever, and learn how to shoot. And I would recommend a semi-automatic handgun for home defense and self-defense. A revolver, they're good, they're dependable, and they're reliable, but there's low round count. In a self-defense situation, especially when there could be multiple people, attackers, etc., threats, you need to have as many rounds as you can accessible to you as quick as you can. Okay? If you happen to carry a revolver, some people like older people, sometimes they dislike revolvers, or younger people, have some speed loaders on you, okay? 2 or 3 other speed loaders, that will be fine. Because you say you only got 6 rounds at a time. That's not a whole lot. You know, you can go change it twice, and guess what? You've only got 12 rounds. So carry a third, and you got 18. So do whatever you need to do to be prepared. Don't be scared to death. Don't have your hand on your gun all the time. Walk around the house with it, or you know, don't put your hand on that weapon. Don't draw that weapon unless you absolutely positively need to do so. Sometimes people have all they've said was, "Hey, on the other side of the door, the person couldn't get in, and they were stopping them." And all they said was, "Hey, I'm armed and I'll shoot." Sometimes that has been enough to deter a thief or a rapist or whatever, and they've ran away. But do not count on that. Okay, especially if they're on drugs or they're drunk or whatever, have some kind of mental issues, you just never know. Okay, a mace, a knife, a backup gun, a primary gun, that's what you need to have about your person when you're at home, when you're out with people and family and friends. You need to do those things. Okay, because in a situation, if you're around a bunch of people, you might be the only person that's armed in a restaurant and someone breaks in, or tries to take a hostage or shoot people or whatever the case might be, or stab people. You may be the only person in there that's armed. You can't always count on the police to be there or a plainclothes police officer to be in there or any kind of, you know, person to be in there at the same place you are. You don't know. You might be the only person. So stay alert, pay attention to your surroundings when you go out. Like I said, get a video surveillance system for your house and your business and your property, and just pay attention. At night when you go out, make sure you're in a, if you have a garage door, make sure nobody gets in while it's closing, sneaks up under the door. That's happened countless times, and many women have been raped that way, or killed that way, or homeowner. Okay, a lot of people that get in they go in the garage, they shut the door, they don't even look in the rearview mirror. They need to make sure that nobody else is in that garage. Same thing when you open that door up. Don't just fly in there all of a sudden. Make sure there's nobody in that garage or whatever. You know, just use some common sense and street smarts. Okay, be prepared and be ready. Don't have to be paranoid. Just be smart about it. So, and also make sure you know how to handle your weapons. Make sure you know how to clean them, take them apart, field strip them. Not all the way. You don't have to take every individual part out of the gun all the time. Some people do. Some people are meticulous, but you don't have to. Just basic field strip and clean. Keep it up to par. Practice with it. Practice malfunction drills with it, with a shotgun, with a pistol, with a revolver. Practice with all those things. Okay. Even a basic knife self-defense class and things like that too, or pepper spray or stun gun or whatever you carry. Make sure you're proficient with it, okay? Because it can be used against you. So make sure you know how to have a game plan if that happens too. You may not have a choice but to run. If someone gets the gun away from you and points it, you may have to run. Don't think you're going to be commando and wrestle that gun away from them. You might, you might not, but if you can get away at that point, that's fine. And also, this hasn't really been talked about either in terms of home invasions and self-defense. Suppose you're with a person that has special needs, like a special needs child or an adult that's wheelchair bound or wears braces or walks with a cane or is on a little power scooter. There's all kinds of little, ifs and things like that. Suppose they're total paraplegic. Suppose they're bedridden. Suppose they don't have an option to get out of the house. Then you may be their last line of defense. So that also needs to be taken into consideration as well. If they're able to hold a pistol or fire a pistol or whatever, or a weapon or something like that, give them something. Have them uh, to where they can defend themselves if you're busy or preoccupied and you can't get to them. But if there's multiple people, they may, try to harm them too. If they can't, then do your best, to have their rooms securely locked so that no one else can get into it. Call 911 as soon as you can, if you can. If someone just kicks in your door, jumps in the window, you may not have time to pick up the phone and dial and give them your name and address if you get them and all that kind of stuff. You may not have time. It's good if you do that because legally that shows it's not something usually that's premeditated per se. That's you try to get the law involved into it as quickly as you could. You weren't trying to hide anything. If you can do it, now do it. Call 911, etc. But don't sit there hunker in a closet and get in a corner, because if you get in a corner and especially in a closet, you have nowhere else to go. They come in that room and they decide to shoot and ask questions later and they're a criminal, you're toast. You're pretty much toast. You're a little sardine can in a fish in a can, man, because you got nowhere else to go. You box yourself in. Don't do that. Okay? If you can help it. If you end up in that situation, then you better, if you didn't call the cops, if you live in a neighborhood, your neighbors may have as well. So, um, if that happens and you don't hear anything, and be careful, it's not the police. The police should identify themselves when they come in. Okay. So be aware of that. Be aware that your neighbor could be coming over to see what's going on. Some neighbors are nosy and they want to get involved in stuff like that too. Be very careful about that. You don't want to shoot a neighbor or a police officer by mistake, because then you're going to have the book thrown at you then. I mean, but you got some really good legal counsel and so forth. So just keep those things in mind and be safe. Use some common sense and street smarts. Get some training. Know how to handle your firearms. Clean them. Keep them up. Keep training at home, on the range, wherever you can, whenever you can. Please, please, please train to be proficient with what you have. Okay? And if you have a neighbor or friends that want to learn, teach them as well. So they might be saving your life too. You never know. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you for watching. Bye.